Okay, Sistas fans, this episode was not great. I give it an extremely low score of a 3 out of 10. Actually, didn't I give last week a 2? I'm pretty sure I did. Um, Zach and Fatima and Hayden saved this episode for me. Prime example of a stretched out filler episode that if you took away the repetitive dialogue and the senseless bickering, we could have been in and out in less than 10 minutes. So, Unbreakable Bond. Good grief. I feel like, yeah, if you took out the filler scenes and it just felt like it was bloated with flashbacks, oh gosh. You know what? Let me do a brief synopsis to tell you what this episode was about. Fatima and Andi squashed their beef that's been going on for over half a dozen episodes. Like it was nothing. Karen tells the girls about her and Aaron moving, only to be met with an interrogation. And if nothing else, these women were proving the point of, see, this is why Karen called Fatima instead of any of you when she needed someone. They eventually come around to the idea. Danny and her just pissy behavior, massive turn off from the episode as far as I'm concerned. Gary goes on his apology tour, but like he's a canceled YouTuber or celebrity and nobody believes him for good reason. And Officer Green is a player, it seems. And that's it. That's the episode. That is exactly what this episode was. I mean, it was completely skippable. Um I I'm not wishing cancellation, but it's episodes like this that make it hard for even me to come up here and give a good reason for why this show should continue outside of me being able to review it for ad revenue. Because I'm just like, are these people even trying? To be completely honest here, it just seems like these writers, if they want to do a Zach and Aaron spinoff, then just do it. I know people on my live stream was like, I'm not watching it. I ain't watching it either. But it just seems. Here's my question though. I'm going to assume that the writers for season 7, 8, and 9 will also be the ones who wrote season 10, which has already been filmed. With as much, you can tell when writers love certain characters above others because you could feel the love coming off the page in scenes. And my thing is, apparently they just love Karen so much. When she's gone next season, who's going to be the recipient of that same level of love? Because based off the characters we've been seeing all season, I don't think any of them, outside of maybe Gary, has been getting as much love. So I just don't know what season 10 is going to look like. On the one hand, I'm actually excited about that because I'm like, wow, I wonder what they're going to do. But on the other, I'm like, ugh, could it be worse than what we're getting now? And I know that's a massive turn off. It's like, well, dang, Jeremy, haven't even got into the episode, but technically I did. I just gave you a brief synopsis of what this show was. I don't know. I just feel bad. I really do. Um, Let me just take a moment here, get myself together so I can go through this thing because, ugh. But here's the thing. Yesterday was a doozy because, hey, your main guy had a lot to do. The new movie, Finding Joy, which, by the way, love the movie. Check it out. It's on Prime Video. Also, I posted my review of it early Wednesday morning. I gave it a 10 out of 10. Then I had to watch Tuesdays, Beyond the Gates, as well as Wednesdays. And I got those reviews up on my other channel. Got The Oval taken care of as well. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I like The Oval this week better than Sistas this week. Then House of Pain came back. Great episode. I was Team Lore, believe it or not. That review is up on this channel as well. And of course, take a moment and go over to my new channel, Exploring My Faith. Trying to get 1,000 subscribers. Moving a bit slower than I anticipated. Not even at 200 yet, but I have several videos over there. There's a link in the description box to Exploring My Faith. You can also go to the homepage of this channel and you'll see it there too. So please, I'm pretty sure over 1,000 people will watch this video And I could use 1,000 of you to go over there and hit subscribe. It's easy as pie. And side note, this channel is less than 1,800 people away from hitting 300K. So let's get there. All right, so Unbreakable Bond. This scene between Fatima and Andi, I know is what fans wanted, but it just left me going, this is just... I don't know what you all are more tired of. How lackluster the show has become, or hearing my reviews rinse and repeat the same line over and over again. This season is all about forced drama. Tension for the sake of views. For lousy payoffs. We had to sit with Andi's funky, snippy, condescending, jealous demeanor towards Fatima for over half a dozen episodes. And you mean to tell me instead of a real talk, everything is magically resolved within 3 minutes? The biggest WTF of this entire scene was Andi's crocodile tears. She wasn't crying because she was sorry. She was crying, overwhelmed with emotion, because Fatima finally remembered who she was and called Andi out. Because first she's like, is my job in jeopardy? No, well, I'm not sure. Like, that was all my mother. Like, I don't know why she would give that impression off. And she's like, well, what have you been telling her about me? And she kind of just, dances around the question. And she mentions how things are weird between us. And that's when I'm like, Andi, you're the one who, this is you. Because Fatima starts going down the laundry list of various things. Like, is it due to the sport contracts, or me and Karen being on good terms? Like, her calling me instead of any of you girls? Like, what's going on with that? It's like, no, that's not it. See, I'm happy that you and Karen have made peace and whatnot. And then Fatima brings up the naked thing, and it's like, oh no, nothing. It was accident, nothing at all. And Fatima's not mad because that came for. Well, she's not mad at what happened. She's mad that I was supposed to be your friend. Like, why didn't you tell me that? And she apologizes and starts crying, and then the beef is squashed, and they agree that Fatima's like, can we agree that when something's wrong, we just talk between each other and not assume? I'm sorry. Look, I know fans are happy that this beef is squashed. Like, okay, yeah, our girls are back. I didn't like this. Don't get me wrong. I did not want any sort of tension and whatnot to keep going because it just felt, again, incredibly forced. But you know what? It is 2:30. I'm going to pause this recording and go to sleep. This episode just tripped me out. What am I even watching anymore? Okay, I will continue this recording in the morning, and I'll have this review up by the afternoon. That's how you know this episode was a doozy. I'm literally going to bed because I'm just fed up, and I will continue this in the morning, I promise. Okay, so actually it is 2:17 p.m. now. Yeah, believe it or not, and I'm not joking, this isn't a bit. I literally stopped recording last night and went to sleep frustrated. And then I woke up at 11:30. But now it's 2:15. Yeah, that's how frustrated this episode made me. But to pick up where we left off in terms of the Andi thing, yeah, it was just ridiculous. Her crying about getting called out, essentially. And like, I don't know why things are weird. It's like I'm jealous, and no, I want my girl to succeed. No. The writers just dropped the ball. This entire thing never needed to be in the story. Andi could have been excited, and perhaps the quote-unquote jealousy could have been the fact that Fatima was focusing on the sports contracts instead of helping her with this case. No. Basically, the frustration of not, Benson, kind of shoving her down in terms of, you will not pursue this case. And then Fatima is pursuing something that she's excelling at, and maybe Andi feels lost as a partner because it's just like that episode of Living Single where Kyle had the opportunity to become Kyle was a stockbroker, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Look, I love Living Single. I just haven't watched it in a while outside of, hey, I'm channel surfing and this channel's playing like a couple of random episodes, so I'll watch it. But I think he was a stockbroker. I know he worked in the stock market. And he had a chance to become higher up at the firm he worked at. But the thing about it was, the older white guy was like, Kyle, if you take this position, you don't have to do anything. You literally just sit around twiddling your thumbs, and you'll be making way more money and whatnot. And he was frustrated with that. And it's like, hey, this is the position I thought I always wanted, but I don't feel fulfilled at all. So why not create this different job where I can, get my hands dirty, utilize my skills. And his boss is like, Kyle, that's a great idea. I mean, you won't be making as much money as you would have had you taken this other job, but you raise an interesting point. And while Kyle took a hit to his finances, overall, he felt fulfilled in his job, well, his new position that he created for himself. So that could have been an interesting route for Andi in terms of, wow, I always wanted to be partner, but when I get to this level, I learned that, there are several things that need to be compromised, like if one of your colleagues rubs elbows with another potential big client of the firm. So yeah, they did not need to do anything to shake up the Andi and Fatima dynamic like that. This was just so stupid. So then Fatima leaves. Now, I'll just make a quick, and I mean a very quick pit stop to the bank. And I don't mind Paige and Maurice. I don't. It's just that this scene felt unneeded. But then again, most of this episode was stretched out for no reason. But the Paige being jealous of the brother and Maurice dynamic, that is just follow up from last week. Because my whole thing when watching this scene was, I thought it was nighttime. Why is the bank still open? That was my first thought. I mean, if it was Paige and Maurice, closing up shop, yeah, but they're just at their windows. Well, there are no windows. They're basically at their stations like it's, still business hours. I'm like, is it daylight savings time in the show too, where it's dark? But I don't know. But essentially, she just explains that, yeah, the last time Dylan was in a relationship, it ended in a bad breakup or whatever. And Maurice is like, your brother inspires me, and this takes Paige off guard since he's like unfocused and whatnot. But I don't know, things change. That was pretty much the bank scene. I don't really need to elaborate on it. And to be honest, the rest of the episode feels the same way. It's just a lot of long, stretched out dialogue. So Andi gets back to the table, and Sabrina and Fatima Karen so what was that about? Look, I messed up. I apologize. We're good. Moving on. Let's get back to the situation. Sabrina's like, I don't know. Fatima looked tense. Yeah. And Danny, thankfully, this is the one time I agree with Danny. Let's cut through it. Get to the point why Karen called us here. So she says they're moving to Seattle, Washington. I don't know why, but that just felt so random. It just feels like that's what these writers are doing, where it's like if anybody needs to go, we're going to send them to the West Coast. Because Tony, had he have gone, which honestly he should have, we're going to send him to Alaska. Karen and Aaron and Faith are moving. They're going to go to Seattle. What? Seattle, Washington, that's all the way on the West Coast. Go to California and keep going straight up on the map. And then Alaska is straight up from there. And I'm just thinking, wow. So I got to say, during the live stream, I got some interesting responses to this because on Twitter, I was going in, I'm like, these are some selfish heifers. Like, I get it. Some people in the live stream like, well, Jeremy, I mean, if I had a friend who just out of the blue said, hey, I'm uprooting and I'm going states away. You're not going to ask who just had a baby. It's like, you're going to ask a bunch of questions. But to be completely honest here, it was a mixture of, okay, it's the girls being concerned and going to miss one of their own up and leaving unexpectedly. But at the same time, it just felt condescending. So what are you going to do for work out there? Do you have a plan? What about Faith? What about Aaron? What is it? What I loved about this is that instead of going to, I think I mentioned this earlier. This scene pretty much showed why Karen felt more comfortable talking to Fatima or calling Fatima that night when she was missing instead of any other girls. Because it felt like they were making this all about them. How can you do this to us? I thought we were all going to be here together forever. We're missing you. And no. I'm glad Karen took the time. Even though, to be fair, had Aaron not confronted her about it, who knows how long she would have been sitting on this. And then out of the blue, hey, I want to move. But she talked to Aaron first. Then, after they mapped things out, she talked to her mom. Then she called her girls. And then she's going to talk to Pam in the next episode. Actually, she left towards the end of this episode to go over to the salon to talk to Pam. But none of these girls said anything supportive until Karen explained herself. But I just hate the fact that none of them were like, wait, you're moving? But why? And that's like how you start. It's like, wait, you're moving, like you're going to drop this bomb on us? And then Karen explains. Like, it just felt like she never had a chance to breathe. They just jumped her with all these questions. I mean, Danny was in. I get that's who Danny is. She doesn't really express her emotions seriously. She'll just kind of like be. This is how she is in any situation, whether it be with her girls or with her man or whatever. She'll just deflect and, just put on a show instead of cutting to the point. And, a sense of betrayal. To be completely honest, though, I don't really feel that. It's just another example of the writers just rushing a relationship. Danny and Karen were never close. Yeah, they had that moment in season 7, which they had a flashback to, by the way, where, Danny apologized and, what did Karen say? You're like the annoying little sister I never asked for. But it just felt like Danny taking it hard felt weird, considering her and Karen weren't even like that. And Karen did explain that this is what she needs. And it's been unbearable around here. It's been it's like we had good times. Yeah, we had good times, but a lot of bad times too. And this is when Karen kind of lost me. My relationship with Zach, and then the salon fire. And I did like the point of how that was a blessing in disguise leading to her new salon. That was good. But here's the thing with this. There was never once accountability. It's like you always mention the whole thing with Zach. Well, to be fair, Aaron was the one that kept bringing it up, even though Karen didn't want to talk about it. But it's just like never the accountability of, yeah, I brought a lot of issues into our lives with my whole chasing after Zach thing. It's always, Zach's really, whatever. I just let it slide because at this point, it's rinse and repeat. You already know what these characters are going to say before they say it. And yeah, most of my notes here are flashback. And she's just thinking about the future. And these girls were treating the situation like in college. When you're about to graduate and you all thinking like, or maybe you already have graduated from college and, nobody's really got a game plan. So you all pull your funds together and get an apartment where it's like 2 to 4 of you living in the same loft or something like that. But then out of the blue, one of your people's like, yeah, I'm about to leave. Wait, what? Yeah, I'm about to get married, or I'm about to, move cross country or move back to my hometown. It hurts because it comes out of nowhere, especially if you're on the same lease. But these are some grown women. And Danny's like, I thought we were all planning roots here. Y'all are in y'all's mid-30s, single or in toxic situations. None of y'all know what you really want to do with your lives. I mean, Andi finally reached her goal of being partner. Sabrina reestablished her position at the bank as manager. And that's it. Like Karen Salon, yeah, she has it. But obviously her life has been traumatically shaken up by her recent experiences. And her life didn't end up how it, she planned it with Zach being tethered to it. So she's cashing in her chips. And to be honest, I mentioned this during the live, and you can let me know if you agree or not. I think maybe I'm giving the writers too much credit, but I think this season is going to wind up with these women losing everything. Not specifically Fatima, I'm talking about the core 4. Here's what I mean by this. Sabrina is probably going to end up pregnant by Rock, going so far as to mess around with him constantly after Danny, even in this episode, said, stop messing around my cousin. She's going to do it anyway because she wants to be a hoe. I don't know why, but she went from, I want to be a mom, I need sperm, to I'm going out in these streets. And then she's going to mess around and get knocked up by the wrong dude. The wrong dude. Andi finally reach partner position. And instead of bowing out of the Dr. Cruz case, because the woman who you were opening this case for didn't want you to pursue it in the first place. A partner with far more seniority than you told you, do not pursue this case. But she's going to do it anyway. And then this could lead to a situation where she ends up losing everything. And then what? She done lost her job over this mess. I'm not saying it isn't a good cause, but you got to pick your battles. You got to pick your battles. Then from there, you go to Danny, and this is kind of the worst case because I loved me some Danny in season 7, but then they freaked her over in season 8, and now she got this huge settlement. She got her job back. Sure, reduced hours, but she got her job back. She got this huge lump sum of money, but she's beefing with the woman that helped her get that job and her money, and she's allowing this couch potato in her home, and now the money's going to be missing because her dumb butt taking it out of the bank. And she's about to lose it all. Because think about it, this money is gone. So you don't have that nest egg anymore. And you got reduced hours at work. And you got a man who isn't working. So what you going to do? But Karen, she lost her tether to Zach. I mean, this was her, oh, I'm set for life. Zach is the father of my baby. And even though things were relatively cool between, her, Zach, and Fatima towards the end of season 8, somewhat, I always knew it flip-flop, it would go back and forth. But no, she lost that baby and her life got turned upside down. So she's about to just cash in her remaining chips and leave before she loses anything else. And I respect that. So that's essentially what this whole thing was about. The girls coming to grips. Andy's phone kept going off. Sabrina kept going on. Oh, who's that? None of your dang business. And then Danny I am going to skip over the Andi and Danny bickering. It was completely ridiculous. It was like elementary school students fighting at a table. There were some low blows about, their past with men and everything. I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less about any of this crap. And Andy's like, look, there's a rift, and there'll be a rift. We'll miss you. But Sabrina's like, hey, how about we pick a day of the week to get on the phone together? That was a nice touch. I did like that. That reminded me of the last episode of Fresh Prince where Uncle Phil said, Sundays. Every Sunday you better have your butt by that phone. Man, that was good. That was good. So then that's when Karen leaves to go tell Pam about the news. Andi leaves too, saying like, oh, I have to go. Danny's like, oh yeah, to meet a man, huh? And then after she leaves, that's when Danny keeps talking crap about that runt, and I don't know. So then they talk about Tony and the lube, and she basically stressed out. That's why she's been dry down there. And basically mentioning Andi still being in her hoe phase and whatnot, and telling Sabrina to stay away from her cousin. So that's when Andi stops by the store, I think to get some wine or champagne or something. I forgot. And, it was wine and champagne. Dr. Vaughn gets a call from her. He'll be off in about an hour, and she asks him to stop by. You want me to bring anything? No, just bring you. Yep, I think we know where this is going. And then from there, we get Officer Green. I ain't going to hold you. I thought that was Jordan. I'm like, yo, did he bulk up in between seasons? But no, look, it was dark outside, and we only saw him from a distance, but he approached, and he's not wearing his uniform. But he rolls up to Andi. Turns out he has a thing for her and asks for her number, but asks her to keep it discreet, So I bet this whole plot line is to force yet another duo within the sister group to have beef. First it was Andi and Fatima. Now it's going to be Andi and Danny again because they're messing around with the same dude. This is ridiculous. Now everything else in the episode. Also, this isn't the steam plant, Billy Jake's, because they did close-ups on the sign. So Billy Jake's. So we got the steam plant and we got Billy Jake's as the meetup places for drinks or whatever between the characters. Now, Gary rolls up to Fatima in the parking garage. She pulls out the gun. I ain't gonna lie, she looked good. Between the red dress, the scowl, the gun, I'm like, dang, we haven't seen this side of Fatima in a while. Gary is actually there to see Hayden. She's like, he's not here. And he mentions he's sorry for the security putting hands on you and this, that, and the third. And basically, Fatima says what everybody else does in this episode. I'm not buying what you're selling. And since, Hayden isn't there, we know that Gary goes over to Hayden's place. But that's when Fatima gets home and Zach got a drink for her, a Fatima Teeny. Zacos and Fatima Teeny. Zach and Fatima saved this episode for me. They really did. I love their dynamic here. And before Fatima can get anything out, I'm thinking to myself, she's pregnant, dude. It was cranberry juice. Think of it as a mocktail. I thought that was a nice touch. She mentions the whole situation about her and Andi talking it out and Gary. And that's when she's like, I think the money you got came from him. And it could be a setup. Because remember, I believe $100,000 is what he donated to Jordan's campaign fund back in the season 7 premiere. And then, of course, that money was dirty money. So they have a right to be concerned. And that's when they both leave. And before they do, Zach takes a sip of the drink and then goes, that's nice. It matches your dress. See, this is the Zach and Fatima I've been missing for a while. So they make their way over to Hayden's house. Gary's already there. He wants to talk. He's sorry. I'm different now. I changed. I don't really need to elaborate because, again, the dialogue is so rinse and repeat. You're evil, Gary. I'm sorry. I'm different now. How are you? And then literally you have a character running down the laundry list of various things he did. And then when he, Hayden tries to play it off like, oh, Tamara, I kicked that skank to the curb. No, you didn't, bro. She left you. But then when he mentions, I'm sorry about betraying you and doing what I did to Tamara, and then he gonna push him up against the wall like he about to choke him. Like, bro, like Hayden, let's be real. Gary would win in a fight. He would. But then that's when he backs off and he says, I should have smothered you in the hospital when I had the chance. Now, the way the camera angles were going in this scene and Hayden going down the laundry list of things Gary has done, I honestly felt he was going to shoot him or something right then and there. But then there's a knock on the door. Bro, you setting me up? And then as soon as he answers the door, like, what, Zach, whatever Fatima told you, I didn't do it. So these three all gang up on Gary. But the funniest part is it's Zach and Fatima like, what'd you send me that money for? And then Hayden tries to chime in. My favorite part of the episode is when Zach and Fatima turn their heads in sync. And I'm like, there they go. They back. So yet again, they just like, what's the scheme? Look, it's clean money. I did you dirty. Here's the paperwork showing the bank routing numbers and everything so you could trace it back. It is clean. And that's pretty much the episode. It all continues in the next one. So that's it. Well, yeah, folks, Unbreakable Bond. Let me put it this way. While the episode was called Unbreakable Bond, the patience I have for this show is so thin that a light breeze would snap it into. Let's just make it to December 17th. And I think rather than rolling out season 10 at the start of 2026, make it April or something. I need a break. If season 10 is just more of this crap, I need a break. I just can't. This is ridiculous. But let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next one.